Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Leadership Lessons from the Mahabharata. Last week, we saw Arjun the weapon system, the man of one pointed focus. But today, we look at what happens when the system crashes. Imagine your top performer, the person who carries 80% of your revenue, suddenly walking into your office on the day of the biggest merger in history and saying, I can't do this. My hands are shaking. I quit. This is the Arjun Vishada Yoga, the despair of the leader. To help us navigate through this, welcome back Commander Girish Konkar.
Thank you, Aparva.
Yes, sir. So, my first question for you today, as we start off, is let's go back to the moment before the war. Arjun had a choice: the Narayani Sena, thousands of elite soldiers, or one man, Krishna, who swore not to pick up a weapon. Arjun chose the man. Why was this the superior tactical move for a leader?
Okay, there is a little bit of a lag here. Excuse me. So why did Arjun make this tactical move? This is a profound strategic pivot in the Bori critical edition of the Mahabharata. Even before the first arrow is shot, Krishna presents choice. On one side, his Narayani Sena, thousands of battle-hardened elite soldiers and high-end weaponry. On the other, just himself, unarmed and committed to not shedding a single drop of blood. Duryodhan, viewing leadership through the lens of a traditional manager, to him it's a no-brainer. He chooses the army. And he assumes that more FTEs, full-time equivalents or employees, and a bigger budget probably mathematically guarantees him victory. But Arjun makes a choice that baffles the world. He chooses the unarmed Krishna. In the Navy, we call this as, we have something called as a combat control system versus the ship's tonnage. So we can have a massive 10,000-ton destroyer with powerful engines, a deck full of missiles and sensors and whole lot of things. But if the combat control system that synthesizes all these weapons and sensors and electronics is not appropriate, the software that identifies targets and also navigates the ships, if that is absent, then you are not a warship. You are just a very expensive floating target. Arjun understood that technical execution alone, that is his own archery, is a dormant asset without strategic navigation, that is Krishna. And we see this mastery trap even in today's corporate world every single day. When I interact with many senior leaders in their companies as a leadership catalyst, you know, think of a high growth startup that raises $100 million. And some of them immediately will go on a hiring spree. 500 people, premium offices, expensive software. That is their Narayani Sena. They have scale. What they lack is the chariot. With no unified culture or visionary standing on someone who's visionary standing on the chariot, who could maybe signal market shifts. And they will then burn through the cash and crash into the wall within months, and then learn as they go along by failure. Very expensive way to learn. In the meanwhile, a lean Arjun style competitor operates with a team of maybe just 20 people. And they have a brilliant mentor, a coach, or a visionary strategist. This lean team can out navigate the giant because they don't have the weight of 500 soldiers slowing down their decision making. A lean, small team can pivot in seconds. Why does the world's greatest archer need a charioteer? And this is what is called as the fog of war. When you are the one shooting the arrows, the CEO closing the deal, or maybe writing the logic for your codes, your vision is biologically limited. You have what is called as tunnel vision. Vision on the target, excellent. But then you cannot see the flank attack on the ground or the ground shifting under your wheels. Krishna represents the neutral observer. His hands are on the reins, not the bow, because he isn't doing the execution himself. What he sees is the entire battlefield. He is able to see the trap that drone is setting and knows exactly when the sun will set. What lesson can we draw from this in today's terms in 2026? I would say don't always ask for a bigger team. Ask for a clear vision, the purpose. And I've seen this time and again, in my last 22 years as a leadership catalyst. Without a clear purpose, without a clear vision, without a clear mission, without the clear values, you are only a transactional team. You are not going to be a transformational team. And I never tire of constantly telling the teams, saying, what is your purpose, your vision? So same lesson comes from the every character of the Mahabharata. Excellence is the synergy between the archer, that is the how, and the charioteer, that is the where and the when, your coach, your mentors. If you are trying to steer the horses and shoot the arrows at the same time, you are not a Maharathi. You are just a distracted amateur.
Wonderfully said, sir. And I could see the battlefield in my mind. The moment I think has come when Arjun has arrived on the battlefield with Sri Krishna, but the world's greatest warrior, he suddenly trembles. His bow drops, and this is the Arjun Vishad. How do we normalize this moment for modern CEOs who constantly feel that in every situation, no matter what happens, they should always be the alpha?
Uh, we again take the help of, in fact, that's the Bible for us, the Bori Critical Edition, that describes Arjun's breakdown with a psychological detail that is almost uncomfortable. It wasn't just sadness that Arjun faced, it was a structural failure of the will. Arjun, the world's most precise weapon system, suddenly hits what one might call as a fatal error code. His skin burns, his heart races, and the Gandiv, the bow, the Dhanush, an extension of his own body, slips from his trembling hands. In the military, we call this the loneliness of command. At the moment of the first strike, the commander stands in a vacuum. Arjun stopped seeing the targets and started seeing the consequences. His personal values were in a head on collision with his professional duty. Our modern corporate culture is, I have seen it being poisoned by the alpha myth. The ideas that some people have that a leader must be an unfeeling machine, a robot who has to take tough calls and tough decisions. Yes, the leader has to do that. But we have turned this invincibility into a job requirement. But Arjun, greatest of the Maharathis, teaches us that vulnerability as an amygdala hijack. That means his subconscious mind was literally hijacked by what was the consequence that he saw in front of him. He stopped the cycle of faking it. And most leaders, in my experience, wear an alpha mask while their brains are in survival mode. They are literally leading their companies off a cliff. Not only are they themselves walking off the cliff, they're leading their companies off the cliff also. I've experienced that they're under severe stress. Arjun didn't fake it. He stood down on the floor of the chariot and created the space for a clinical intervention. The Bhagavad Gita isn't just philosophy. It's a 700 verse psychological defragging. In the computers, we all are used to computers. There's something called as defrag, where where you sort of defrag your hard drive. It's exactly that what Arjun has to undergo, because that defragging session, which was taken by Krishna, realigned his purpose and his very identity, and from that purpose identity flowed the action. Folks, if your organizational culture punishes confusion, you are forcing your leaders to lie. Leader lying to protect their alpha status is a liability. Clarity is not the starting point of leadership. It is also the destination and the road through which it passes through the valley of confusion. We must normalize the Arjun moment for us. The moment where a leader can take off the mask and say, I am conflicted. I can think of one Indian example. Some of you may have heard of this lady called Anu Aga. She was a company called Thermax. A very powerful example is there of her. She's a former chairperson of Thermax. Somewhere in the late 1990s, she faced a true, what do you call it? Midnight of the soul. And within a short span, she lost her husband, who happened to be the CEO of the company, and also her 25-year-old son. She was thrust into the leadership of a struggling family-run business while being emotionally shattered. Instead of hiding behind a stoic alpha mask, Anu Aga was brutally honest about her grief and her lack of apparent business experience. She admitted her Arjun moment and sought help from professional consultants and mentors and coaches, her charioteers. This vulnerability allowed for a surgical reboot of Thermax. She divested non-core businesses, professionalized the management, and turned the company around. By dropping her bow and admitting her confusion, she built a legacy of integrity that a faking leader could never do it. As a lesson, I would say, normalize the Arjun moment. If as in the Navy, as a captain, if I would be unfit for command, I have a duty to say so. That is professional integrity, not cowardice. Are you building a safe boardroom for your organization? Ensure your Maharathis have a place to be human so they can return to being surgical.
But I just had goosebumps when you were narrating the story of Anuaga, and it really hit home. I mean, one of the toughest things a leader can do is admit that they need help, and that's definitely a lesson every leader should take home with them and talk to other leaders as well about it. So, if you are enjoying what we're doing right now, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We are here every Thursday at 8 p.m. We do these lives and we do a lot of deep dives. So, coming back to our topic, one of the hardest things Arjun had to do was fire an arrow at his own grandfather Bhishma and his teacher Dronacharya. In business, we often have to compete against our former mentors or let go of people we love for the sake of the organization. How do you then maintain a surgical edge where your heart is involved?
Purva, this is perhaps the most painful chapter in the Mahabharata. It is day 10 of the war. Arjun stands on his chariot, and across from him is Bhishma Pitama, the man whose lap he played in as a child. Arjun's physical reaction is what I would say is gut level. His limbs fail and his mouth is parched. He asks, how can I strike the one worthy of my worship? And this is the dilemma of the emotional debt. In the corporate world, one might call it as the mentor's shadow. You have a veteran, uh, perhaps the person who hired you or who's probably built the original product. But now the market has shifted. That person, despite that person's glorious past, has now become a bottleneck. It could be whether they're resisting the AI that is coming in or clinging on to a 1990s culture in 2026. They are now a risk to the mission. Arjun was blinded by what one might call as mamta, an emotional attachment that creates a fog over strategic clarity. Krishna's intervention was surgically cold. He tells him that you aren't firing at your grandfather. You are firing at the defender of the Alharmic system. Bhishma, despite his personal virtue, was the shield protecting a broken system. By refusing to strike, Arjun wasn't being kind. He was being complicit in the organization's decay. And that's what the entire Kaurav clan had become. I would say the hierarchy of loyalty, which we used to have in the Navy. In the Navy, we were trained on a strict hierarchy. Every officer must internalize your own pyramid. What do I stand for? And it was very crystal clear. Everybody had to understand it that the first and foremost, what is your organization's purpose? That means what you are doing is for your country. Period. Full stop. Desh ki seva. And this purpose is the truly transformational purpose. क्या कर रहे हैं? देश की सेवा. So whatever that you do, is it good for the country or not good for the country would be the first question in any decision making. Then what is your mission? What is that specific objective that has been delivered, given to you? Because from the purpose you derive, whatever is your mission, is it good for the country, bad for the country? Simple. No brainer. Then the third would be your team, the fellow sailors, the teammates in the organization. Is it good for them, bad for them? Then the fourth would be your emotions and your safety. That is the self. That comes the last. And this is truly transformational. If a commander lets a legacy veteran ignore protocol out of pure sentiment, emotions, that person violates his integrity to the ship. If the ship or the submarine sinks, the kindness shown to the individual becomes a crime against the entire crew. In leadership, the highest dharma is to ensure the survival of the organization towards your greater purpose, even if it causes temporary pain to the person who taught you how to sail. One case study I can think of in the Indian context would be Ratan Tata's and the satraps. Now, these satraps who were there at that time, I think somewhere in the 1990s. A very powerful example. How Ratan Tata consolidated Tata Group in the 1990s. When he took over as the chairman, the group was run by legendary, powerful Bhishmas. They were the titans. Like the names are, I can think of one or two of them is Rusi Modi. He was of Tata Steel. Darbari Seth at Tata Chemicals. And these they're great men, like Bhishma. They were mentors and veterans who had built their respective empires under Jamshedji Tata. However, they operated as independent satraps, resisting the centralized vision and retirement policies that Ratan Tata needed to implement to modernize the group. The conflict was played out in national headlines. And Ratan Tata had to strike these venerable figures to save the ship. Had he stayed loyal to the individuals out of pure sentiment, the Tata Group may probably have remained a fragmented collection of fiefdoms rather than becoming the global powerhouse it is today. Ratan Tata protected the purpose, not the person. At a tactical level, one can say when you must compete against a mentor or let go of a loyalist, apply your duty filter via two questions. Am I protecting the purpose or the person? If I didn't know this person, would I still support the current stance? That's the second one. Arjun eventually understood this. He touched Bhishma's feet with his mind in his mind while striking his armor with his hands. That is a surgical edge. You can maintain your personal gratitude for a mentor while dismantling their outdated methods. Your dharma is to the future. If you let the past breathe at the cost of the future, you are the leader. You are a creator of a museum that's about to burn down.
Very true, sir. Very, very true, I think. And once the war started, there's another very tragic incident that takes place. It's the death of Abhimanyu in the Chakravyuh. So Arjun knew how to exit that Chakravyuh, but Abhimanyu did not know that. So, in modern terminology, we can call it a failure of knowledge transfer. So, how did Arjun accidentally set his successor up for failure?
Mahabharata has so many lessons for us, and it is never cut and dry. There is never black and white. There's always lots of shades of gray. Should Abhimanyu have been let into the Chakravyuha? The story of Abhimanyu and the Chakravyuha is often told as a tale of unparalleled bravery. But I would say, from a leadership perspective, it is a tragedy of a systemic negligence. And the paragraphs given in the Bori critical edition, these details are quite haunting. See, Chakravyuha isn't just a physical formation, it's a living, breathing, rotating military algorithm. It's literally fluid. It is designed to swallow an army whole. On that fateful day, the Pandavas were actually desperate. They were having a tough time trying to get the upper hand over the Kauravas. Now, when they realized that they're going to have a Chakravyuha being launched the next day, Arjun, the only man who knew to complete the entry and exit protocol, sort of had been diverted to a different part of the battlefield. And the organization was now facing a lethal threat. And the CEO, Arjun, was out of office. Enter Abhimanyu. He is the high potential leader. He has the pedigree, the energy, and but a partial understanding of the system. He knows how to break in, but has no idea how to get out. And most people would blame the enemies for his death. But as a commander, I would look at the mentor. This was a classic, I would say, a founder dependency trap. Arjun was the master of the secret, but he had hoarded the knowledge, whether intentionally or through sheer I didn't have the time. He had failed to systematize his most critical competency. And we see this Abhimanyu syndrome in startups and family run businesses every single day. You have a brilliant founder, a Maharathi, who can close any deal, fix any technical bug, and navigate any regulatory crisis. They are the only ones who know the exit strategy when things go south. They carry the Chakravyuha codes in their head. But because they're so busy fighting the war, they never take the time or the efforts to write down the SOPs. They never build a knowledge repository. They don't mentor the Abhimanyus on the most boring but the vital part of leadership. And I've seen these organizations hire young, brilliant MBAs or engineers or new hires, absolutely cutting edge next generation, and they give them the entry keys. These young leaders enter the Chakravyuha of high stakes projects with immense fire and grit. But the moment the market shifts or a legal hurdle appears, they realize they are trapped. They are hardworking, they are brilliant, they want to get out. But that one person, they start doing it for the mentor. The mentor is busy elsewhere. Because the mentor feels that he has got power only if these people come to him and ask them questions. The real power, guys, is when you let go, when you empower your team and tell them, go and work out, go and figure out this is how it should be done. Teach them your various tactics that you learned over 30 years of your experience, which they have not had the opportunity to learn. Without that exit knowledge, these high performers don't just fail, they burn out, they die professionally, and then they leave the organization in ruins. As a submarine commander, it was our job that if a specialized technician is the only person on the submarine who knows how to operate or fix that sensor or the equipment, then that person is actually a strategic liability. Because if that person goes down, the submarine goes down. And that is why we would have redundant training and rigorous documentation, continuous training. continuous training in other departments also. So we should be able to cross operate if ever an emergency arrives. I would say in business, when you fail to document your exits, inverted commas, you are accumulating a technical debt. You are essentially borrowing efficiency from the present by sacrificing sustainability in the future. You are leaving a chakravyuha for your team to die in. But again, example we can think of here is you all might remember Steve Jobs was earlier at Apple, and he was involved in every chakravyuha from design to marketing. And when he first left Apple in the 80s, the Abhimanyus he left behind knew how to make a great computer, the entry, but they didn't know how to navigate the exit. When Microsoft started dominating the OS market, the company almost nearly collapsed because the secret was tied to the man, not the system. It was only when Jobs returned and later during his final illness that he focused on building what is called as the Apple University, a systemic effort to institutionalize his decision making process. He had to ensure that Tim Cook and the team knew not just how to innovate, but how to sustain the organization without the founder. Your greatness as a leader is not measured by your individual kills on the battlefield. It is measured by what your team can do in your absence. Ask yourself this question tonight. If I disappeared for 3 months, which of my Abhimanyus would get trapped in a formation I created? Have I taught my team how to abort a failing project? Or have I taught it only how to launch one? Is my secret sauce documented in an SOP, or is the knowledge silo in my brain? Folks, don't be a leader who builds only followers who wait for your command. Be a Maharati who builds systems. Don't just teach your team how to break into the market. Teach them also how to navigate the existence of a crisis. If you don't systemize your brilliance, you are setting your successions up for a tragedy. Documentation is not admin work. It is the ultimate act of leadership, protection, and stop holding the secret and start building your systems. Plan for your next holiday without your phone. Ensure you don't carry your phone with you. Can you go for a holiday without your phone? If you can, then you're passing the test of being a true coach and a true mentor. If you cannot go for a 10 days holiday without your phone, you failed.
Very true, sir. I think this is a leadership test which will be very difficult to pass, even for the best and the most accomplished of leaders, because we're so used to staying connected all the time. So, one thought that comes to my mind is after winning the war, Arjun is not seen celebrating. He feels a very deep void. And we do see this in real life, even with CEOs, that after a massive IPO or a successful exit, they hit a post project depression. Why does winning sometimes feel like losing?
Uh, yeah, so this is a phenomena I would say every high achiever eventually faces. But few discuss it because it feels very ungrateful. In the Bori CE, the end of the Kurukshetra war is not a scene of champagne popping and celebrations. It is a scene of haunting silence. The Pandavas, Arjun, the undisputed victor, feels a crushed crushing weight of emptiness. This can be something related to post-mission void. And in the military, we see this quite often. You spend years calibrated to a single mission, especially in very high-tech, high-performance environments. And when the mission is over, the adrenaline drops, the target vanishes, and your sense of self-esteem also disappears with it. Winning then sometimes feels like losing because most high performers fuse their identity with their activity. And Arjun didn't just use the Gandiva of the inertia. He was himself the Gandiva. In the corporate world, a founder's identity is often as the CEO of X. And when they exit, the bank account is full, but the chariot is empty. And when they wake up at 6 a.m. with no bird's eye to aim at, this is an identity crash. Folks, if your self-worth is tied to your bow, the skills, or the target, that is your KPIs, hitting the mark makes you obsolete in your own eyes. And the Mahabharata text provides a brutal lesson in the leadership life cycle. Years later, when Krishna has gone, Krishna has died, Dwarka has sunk, Arjun is escorting the women from Dwarka to Indraprastha, and their convoy is attacked by the Bhils, the Abhiras. Now, they were not some celestial warriors. They were simple people, local people armed with simple clubs and stones. And yet, they managed to do what the world's greatest warriors couldn't. They could humiliate Arjun. Arjun reaches for the Gandiva Dhanusha, but it feels like lead. He tries to summon his divine astras, but the software is gone. The mantras have vanished. This is the end of life cycle. Your title will be taken away. Your technical skills will be disrupted probably by AI now. Your Gandiva, be it intellect or authority, will eventually lose its power. In case you have not yet built an identity beyond your performance, the post-mission void will swallow you. Again, let me try and give you an example in the Indian context. All of you, I'm sure, would have heard of Azim Premji. He has something called as a purpose pivot. A very powerful example, I would say. You see, for decades, his identity was synonymous with Wipro. If it was Wipro, that means Azim Premji. And he won his Kurukshetra building a global technical empire. But to his credit, Premji avoided the founder's blues by performing a purpose pivot. He didn't let his identity die with the hardware of the business. He shifted his surgical edge from profit margins to larger dharma, education, and social change through the Azim Premji Foundation. He realized that Wipro was just a target, but his purpose was systemic problem solving for the greater good of mankind. Wipro helps in that. And by moving from an individual hunter to a national architect, he survived the void. Many a time in the Navy, after a long deployment, and submarines get deployed for 60 days, we don't just send the crew home. We go through a decompression, literally what is called, we can call it the decompression phase. Or when the people leave the Navy, many of us sailors would leave out 15 years, many 20 years. We prepare them for a life after the target. In a systemic way, We retrain them through various courses, through various big institutions, best institutions, to ensure that they get a foundation back to settle in their life post retirement. I would like you to do an audit of yourself. Is your why tied to the result or the service? This famous quote from Gita that don't worry about the end part, do your duty. But at the same time, your duty must be aligned with your purpose. If that is not, then where are you leading? The fruit that you get, the win, is temporary. The dharma, the value you bring is permanent. I would say maintain an identity reserve. Do you have a version of yourself that exists outside of your LinkedIn profile? Check that out. If tomorrow my LinkedIn were to disappear, would I still be a perfect person the way I am? Or do you think your identity is gone? Spot your next Himalaya. Before hitting your current target, identify a purpose that is bigger than your KPI. I keep saying this every time. Your purpose is the biggest. Purpose is the biggest. Find your purpose. Once you get your purpose of life for your organization, for your personal life, you will find life literally transforms. Now, life becomes a pull. Otherwise, we are pushing ourselves every day to perform. Winning only feels like losing when you realize you are fighting for a trophy instead of a transformation. I would say be a Maharati who uses the bow to serve a purpose so that when the bow is put away, the purpose still stands.
Sir, I think finding your purpose is a much bigger talk that we'd like to hear more from. So I hope that in one of the lives we do cover that as well. So far, we've gone with the charioteer, the amygdala hijack, and the succession, and finally the void. But for a leader who has achieved so much in life, what is the final mission?
Apurva, we've deconsidered the mechanics of mastery, but now let's try and address the application of power. Here we see a weapon system. No matter how calibrated, how perfect, how fantastic, is practically useless if it sits in a warehouse. And as we wrap up this, our two-part deep dive into Arjun, the final mission isn't just a theory. It's a surgical audit of your current leadership state. Tonight, before you shut down your mind for the day or go to sleep, I want every leader listening this podcast to perform the Maharati audit. Number one, your charioteer versus the headcount audit. Ask yourself, are you obsessed with the Narayani Sena or are you invested in Krishna? In corporate terms, are you measuring your success by the number of people reporting to you, the size of your budget, or your department? Or are you investing in strategic navigation? A Maharati understands that 10 people with a clear why will far outperform 1,000 people who are just following orders. The mission here is to identify your neutral observer. If you are the one who's constantly pulling the bowstring, you cannot see the horizon. You must find that mentor, that coach, or that charioteer, the colleague who can tell you when you're aiming at the wrong bird. Stop asking for more soldiers until you have mastered the software of your strategy. Master your why. What is your organization's purpose? Number two, the Chakravhyuha versus the SOP. This is the audit of your legacy. Are you a knowledge hoarder or a knowledge disseminator? We saw what happened to Abhimanyu because Arjun hadn't systemized the exit strategy. In your office, if you are the only one who can solve a specific crisis, you are not a hero. You are a systemic failure. You have created a Chakravyuha that will eventually swallow your team when you aren't there to lead. Your mission is to identify one secret you're currently hoarding. Perhaps a client relationship trick, maybe a technical workaround or a decision-making framework, and document it and pass it on to your teammates. Turn your individual magic into an organizational method. A true Maharati doesn't build followers. You are dependent on him. He builds leaders who can navigate the formation without him. In simple terms, plan for your next holiday of 10 to 15 days without your telephone now. And say to yourself, okay, in maybe 6 months, in 1 year, I'm going to go for a holiday for 10, 15 days to so and so place without my telephone. And ensure your team is now trained to take all those. I always say, only the policy decisions are taken by the boss, the leader, the CEO, by the leader. Every other decision, operational decisions, must be taken by your team. That's why you hired them. Otherwise, why hire those people if you're going to do all the work yourself? Number three, again, we come to the void versus the purpose. Audit your horizon. Is your why tied to the target or is it transformational? If your happiness depends entirely on you hitting the quarterly number or getting the next promotion, you are setting yourself up for the post-mission void. Then the target is just a milestone to be achieved. It is the fruit that Krishna warned us about. Arjun's real greatness didn't happen when he hit the fish's eye. It happened when he used his power to protect the vulnerable and rebuild a shattered nation. Because Hastinapur and Indraprastha were shattered despite the Pandavas having one lower. Your mission is to find a purpose bigger than your KPI. How does your work improve the life of the end user? How are you mentoring the next generation? When your purpose is dharma, the service of the greater good, the void disappears because the mission never truly ends. As we conclude, I want to say that leadership, as we've seen through the eyes of Arjun, is not a destination of comfort. It is a relentless journey of calibration. It's a transition from the archer, the high performer, who wins for his own glory, to the commander, the leader who wins for the world. In the Navy, we didn't just train the people to shoot. We train them to protect the country. If you are only focused on your own surgical edge, you are just a technician with a bow. But when you align that edge with a charioteer's vision, when you safeguard your team from the Chakravyuha of ignorance, and when you fill the void with a sense of duty, your dharma, you become a Maharati in the truest sense of the Mahabharata. Guys, don't go to tomorrow's meeting hoping for a miracle. Go to tomorrow morning with a plan of calibration. String your Gandiva with the right tension, aim for the iris, and remember, the power in your hand is a trust given to you by the universe to establish dharma in your boardroom. Mastery is not a gift. It is a choice. Now go out there and lead with a surgical edge.
Incredible, sir. Incredible. I think what I take away the most from this is precision, legacy, and purpose. These are, I think, the biggest, lessons from this life. What a powerful way to end our study of Arjun. Thank you so much, Girish, sir, for showing us that even the greatest warriors must evolve. There is no point where you feel like, okay, this is it and I've arrived. To our viewers, thank you for joining us on this two-part Odyssey. If these lessons have resonated with you, please like, share, subscribe, and I think because this is about Arjun, share it with one Abhimanyu in your team who needs an exit strategy. Next week, we are going to go from one brother to the next one. We are going to look at the mighty warrior Bhima. We will audit the man who taught the world how to fight but forgot to stand up sometimes for what was right. So I'll see you next Thursday at 8 p.m. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care. All the best to everybody.